Everyone can see massive changes occurring, but many aren't connecting these current initiatives to the long-term implications to the people of the United States. President Trump has mentioned that he would like to do away with income tax altogether. DOGE has exposed how our tax money has been used by unscrupulous legislators who create shell NGOs which serve to obscure where our money is going. But when one tracks the trail of money, we have learned that it's going to fund DEI, LGBT, and other deep state initiatives while everyone is skimming off the top. We aren't talking about a small amount here. DOGE alone cut over $200 billion of contracts that were wasteful or fraudulent. Kash Patel has announced the prosecution of several other fraudulent schemes coming from outside our government, but related to politicians in some cases. Before 1913, the United States funded its federal government mainly through tariffs on imported goods, a system that had been in place since the nation's founding. This approach minimized direct taxation on citizens and kept federal involvement in the economy limited. The lack of a central bank or income tax allowed for a decentralized financial system, which has many benefits. Decentralized banking gives us full control over our money. It cuts out middlemen, reduces fees, increases privacy, prevents account freezes or censorship. When banking is centralized, everything depends on the central bank. They have you by the short ones, so to speak. The central bank becomes in control, and we as a world are at their whim. Essentially, they have no independent oversight. They charge us interest on our own money, which all the banks, especially the Fed, makes money on. But I covered that in a different video that I'll link. The point being, once the Federal Reserve Act was passed, they became like a bad case of herpes. You can't get rid of them. And that is exactly what we're going to examine in this video. Is it possible to end the Fed? And are we seeing signs that moves are already being made? Could this be why the puppet government is so vehemently opposed to Trump's tariffs, despite the fact they are bringing in about $30 billion a month so far, and the program is young? So we had no income tax and it was funded by import taxes, right? But that all changed on February 3, 1913, when the 16th Amendment was ratified. It granted Congress the authority to impose a federal income tax on the people of the country. This amendment, enacted under President Woodrow Wilson's administration with Democratic support, was the beginning of direct taxation on our individual earnings. This laid the foundation for every bit of government corruption by creating a new revenue stream that could be manipulated for political gain. But it gets worse. On December 23, 1913, President Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act, which brought the Federal Reserve System into existence as the nation's central bank. This system is controlled by a combination of private banks and a government-appointed board, and it controls our money supply and serve as a lender of last resort. This centralized authority represents an unnecessary intrusion into free market principles. It gives unelected officials power over our economy and undermines our individual financial freedom. The introduction of the income tax reduced reliance on tariffs, which had previously accounted for the bulk of federal revenue. By 1914, with the disruption of trade due to World War I, tariff income dropped even further, shifting fiscal policy toward income taxes. This is the point that the federal government pushed beyond its constitutional limits, using taxpayer money to fund all kinds of frivolous programs rather than sticking to a tariff-based budget. So that you understand, with tariffs, the people were free from taxation. Without them, they taxed the heck out of the people. Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat, championed both the Federal Reserve and the income tax as part of his progressive agenda. This era marked a pivotal moment where Democratic policies began eroding traditional American values of limited government. The collaboration with figures like Carter Glass and Robert L. Owen, both Democrats, reinforces the perception that this was a party-driven initiative to consolidate power. The 1913 changes enabled the federal government to grow significantly, funding initiatives like World War I efforts and later entitlement programs. These changes began a slippery slope towards fiscal irresponsibility, where politicians can use income tax revenue to buy votes through welfare and other expenditures. The Federal Reserve's ability to manipulate our currency is a tool for inflation, which can destroy our savings and further make us slaves of the monetary system. The tariff system, though imperfect, aligned with a constitutional framework that avoided direct citizen taxation, but the controlled politicians who lied their way into office will have none of it. The 1913 reforms, which was definitely driven by Democratic leadership, set a precedent for all of these modern tax burdens and bureaucratic overreach. People are awakening to the government corruption, and nobody wants to pay taxes, so now is the time for people to awaken each other. The Fed is one of the most difficult challenges a world leader faces if they want to remain alive. Returning to a tariff-based system and eliminating income tax would eliminate taxes, but we still need to deal with the Federal Reserve and the stronghold they have over the people, businesses, and politicians of the world due to dangers of centralized power. But here's the connection. The IRS is basically a collection arm of the Federal Reserve, so eliminating income taxes virtually eliminates the IRS as we know it, and the Federal Reserve wouldn't be collecting from us to pay the national debt, which is significantly owned by none other than the Fed. So do you see how this house of cards comes tumbling down when we remove different elements of it? Don't worry. President Trump has a plan. If you do your research on mainstream, which now includes AI, you will get a completely different story. As soon as it starts defending the existence of the Fed, you know it's controlled and you're not going to get an unbiased answer. So the next time you are listening to the media tell you how President Trump is ticking off so many people with his tariffs, just remember that April 15th comes around every year, along with the stress and fear that it inherently invokes. Then think what it would be like if you had that extra 25 to 33% of your income that is used to send condoms to gay black men in Africa and provide transgender theater events in foreign countries. Then think about that 25 to 33% of your income that is going to the pockets of corrupt politicians when you can't afford groceries. NESARA is on its way. POTUS has been giving us hints all along, but we haven't put the puzzle together. Tariffs leads to no taxes, which points to NESARA GESARA prosperity. Hold the line and trust the plan because our worlds are about to rock.